business owners say that they don't have enough time. So on today's call, I will be speaking with Janet Barkley about how you can get more done so that you have time to do those essential tasks. Tell us, what exactly is a virtual assistant?
A virtual assistant is a professional who supports your business from a remote location, which in most cases is that person's home office. Working with a VA is an ideal solution for entrepreneurs who work alone but don't have the time, skills, or desire to handle all the tasks associated with running a small business. And it's ideal because you don't have to supply office space or equipment or software. You don't have to deal with all the paperwork involved with hiring staff, such as source deductions. And you also don't have to pay for employee benefits, vacation time, sick days, or any expenses over and above the time that's needed to work on your business.
And for a lot of people, particularly solopreneurs, people who are working from home from a home office, that's one of the things that kind of holds them back, is the idea that I'm working from home, I can't hire somebody. But if a virtual assistant's working from their home, it takes away that one big obstacle that you have. Now, I know another reason that people who are really busy and would like to hire somebody and they say, no, I don't want to do it, is think of it as an expense. Now, I know you say a virtual assistant is actually an investment. It can help you make more money. So tell us, why is that true?
Okay, well, in the beginning, when you just start your business, you've got the time to do all the tasks yourself, to spend lots of hours a week on administration and marketing and those kind of things. So at that point, it probably doesn't make sense to outsource unless there's something you really don't know how to do yourself. But as you get busier, you've only got so many hours in the week. So if you're busy with clients, you don't have as much time to spend on administration, on marketing tasks. And obviously looking after the clients is your first priority. So those other things often will just not get done, or else you're working late at night, you're working weekends, you're not taking vacation. And if you don't keep those activities going, if you don't keep actively marketing, your ability to keep getting new clients is going to be seriously hindered. I can give you another example. If it takes you 2 hours to put together a newsletter, and then you instead delegate that work to a virtual assistant, that's 2 extra hours that you can spend on billable work or meeting with prospective clients, or something else that's going to actually affect your bottom line. And over the course of a year, that extra income can really add up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even just 2 hours a week, if your hourly rate is more than what you're paying the virtual assistant, then yeah, that can add up over time.
If you're not really technical, a VA can probably do it in less time because that's what they're doing all the time. So what takes you 2 hours might take them an hour, depending what it is.
That is so true. I know I've struggled with things on my website because, I'm fairly technical, but because I don't do that every day, sometimes stuff takes me hours. I know somebody like you could do it in probably 20 minutes. If you're getting to that point where you're starting to feel like you don't have enough time to get everything done, when does it make sense to really seriously consider hiring somebody? What are some of the warning signs or indicators that it really is time to start thinking about getting some extra help?
Well, if you find that after you've sent out proposals or other correspondence or articles you've submitted, things like that, and afterwards you realize, there was typos in there was a spelling mistake or word missing, because you're hurried, you're trying to get so much done, and just having an extra set of eyes to look things over before they go out can be a real benefit. And a lot of people, if they think, I have very good language skills, this is not an issue, the thing is, it's really hard to spot your own mistakes because you know what it's supposed to say. So when you read it, that's what you see. So if you do find you're sending out things with errors, it may be time to start thinking about having someone else on board. If you find that you're putting in a lot of evening and weekend hours just to stay on top of things, that's okay to do occasionally, but if you do that all the time on an ongoing basis, you're going to get burnt out, and that's no good. At the end of the week, even at the end of the day, if you've got stuff left over on your to-do list and you find out that you're not getting them done and you're continually carrying over the same items and each week putting it back on your list that you're just not getting to it, that's a really good sign that you need an extra set of hands. Maybe you're thinking you want to make better use of technology, but you don't know where to begin. You're not that tech savvy. Most virtual assistants are very tech savvy and can help you get going with a blog or getting on social media sites or using autoresponders or any of those kind of tasks where automation is going to save you lots of time. And of course, the biggest one is if you have started to turn away business because you just don't feel you've got time to take on new clients, that's a really big flag that you need some assistance, because if you can't take on new clients, you're not going to be able to increase your income.
Now, I know a lot of times people say, I know I need help, but I don't know what I can have somebody do and what I can't have somebody do. I mean, we've touched on a few things, but particularly, if you're working from a home office, I mean, I can't have somebody come in and file things for me because they have to physically be here. So what kinds of things are ideal for outsourcing to a VA if you're getting too busy?
There are so many possibilities, and the great thing is that you can probably find a VA to handle just about anything, except, as you said, to come in and do your filing. What I usually suggest to people is, rather than saying, okay, what can you do for me, is for them to sit down and make a list of what they do, everything that they do during their working hours, and identify tasks that they could delegate. Could be things that they're spending too much time on because they're difficult for them, like you mentioned about the website updates, or things that they just don't like doing. And I guess the best way to sort of evaluate what could be delegated is what's going to have the biggest impact. If I get this off of my plate, what's going to alleviate the most stress and help me to be more productive and more successful? And once you've got a few ideas in mind, then you can start looking for a VA that would provide the services that you need. There's lots of VAs that specialize in a certain area, so if you want somebody specifically for bookkeeping or for email marketing or blogging or whatever you want, you can probably find someone that has expertise in that area. You might even find one that specializes in your particular industry. There are definite benefits to somebody who knows your industry, whether they maybe have worked in it in the past or whether they've taken training, or maybe they just have other clients in that field. And I know that some people are reluctant to go to a VA with other clients that do what they do. But it's important to know that most VAs do have a code of ethics and confidentiality, and they're not going to take your ideas and pass them on to their other clients. You have to weigh the benefits of having somebody with the knowledge versus somebody who doesn't know anyone else that's doing what you do. What's going to affect you mostly in the end.
Well, and having somebody in the same industry, particularly if your client base is regional,
Exactly.
there wouldn't be any problem at all. But
That's
it would
right.
certainly help as far as training. I would have to spend less time training. They would probably be faster at getting the tasks done because they would already know what kinds of things, and they might be able to even suggest things that I wouldn't think of that they could do. That's
right. That's true, not just of a specialist, but whenever you work with the same virtual assistant over a period of time, the more they get to know you and your business and how you work, they're going to be able to come up with ideas that you may or may not have thought of to help market your business and streamline processes and things like that.
So how do you make sure that you're not saying apples and the VA here is oranges, and so that you don't get these surprises of you're expecting it's going to take 2 hours and it ends up being 20 hours? How do you make sure that happens?
Take the time to make sure it's a good fit, because that's important on both sides, that it be a good fit. And communication style is huge. Be as clear as possible. If you want them to do something specific, then be specific. It's better to give too much information than not enough. Just in general, working with somebody virtually, it is more difficult to make a relationship because you don't have that contact that you've got when you're working alongside someone in an office, and you don't have the nonverbal language that you have when you're speaking to somebody face-to-face, or even over the phone, since so much of it is by email. You had mentioned training, and I know I've seen on the web there's different designations for virtual assistants. Are there some official designations for virtual assistants that are better than others? Is it necessary that you find somebody who has that sort of designation, and how do you know which ones are authentic and which ones are just sort of, you pay a fee and you get it regardless of your skill sort of thing? I don't think it's important To me, in the virtual assistant industry or any industry, if a person has certification, it does show that they're serious about what they do, because it does cost money, for one thing. So somebody isn't going to pay a lot of money for a certification if it's just a hobby for them. So it does show that they're serious, but it doesn't necessarily show that they're more qualified than someone else, because you could have someone who has, say, 20 years experience as an executive assistant, and they've just started out as a VA. They haven't taken any training because they feel they have all the skills that they need. They might be just as qualified or more qualified than somebody who's got lots of letters after their name. I would not think it would be a deciding factor.
So the real important thing is to look at who they've worked with in the past and what kind of skills they bring to the table.
And when you talk to them, do you feel that this is somebody that you're comfortable with, that they get you?
How much should we expect to pay a virtual assistant?
Well, that really varies. You could expect to see rates ranging from $25 up to maybe $75 an hour. Now, that high number would likely be someone who's very specialized in something that's a really skill that is hard to find. On the lower end, there's a good chance that it's someone who has a regular job and is doing it part-time. So if it's not important to you that the person is in business full-time, depending again what you want, that's fine. But the amount being charged isn't the only question that you need to ask. If they're charging so much per hour, is there a minimum charge? Do they require a monthly retainer? So it's depending what you're looking for. It's not that one is better than the other. It's what do you need? Or do they have packages? Could you buy a 5-hour package, say, or a 10-hour package? Different VAs do things differently. Okay. And some people have more than one VA for different tasks that they have.
Maybe one VA to handle all the techie stuff on your website and your newsletter, and maybe another VA to setting appointments or something.
Mm-hmm.